Hey y'all! Well, here to do a ever popular unboxing video, and this is the Schiit SYS passive preamp. And as many of y'all know, I just finished building a pair of power amps, and I really had no way of controlling the volume on them. First tested them with my DAC, which of course has a remote volume control with it, but I wanted to listen to my turntable, and it has no volume control on it. I've been using integrated amps with it. And so I had this little FX Audio, little tube preamp, and it gave me the opportunity to kind of test things out, but I didn't like the idea of this preamp possibly coloring the sound, because I wanted to hear what these new amps actually sound like. And the same's true with this little Pass ACA clone amp. I've been using it with this little FX Audio preamp, which obviously isn't a high-end product, but they're known to sound pretty good. And this is the one with no tone controls, that's just got the volume control, that are known for their decent sound. And so I felt like I wasn't losing a lot there, but I was looking for a more passive, neutral solution that would be just totally transparent, and it was just simply a volume control. Now, there were several of them on Amazon at different price points, and none of them were real expensive. There was a super cheap one that was like 20 bucks or 25 bucks, and it had some pretty bad reviews, and people were showing pictures of them showing up with the volume control like falling off or broken off in the box and stuff, and didn't want to go down that road. And then there was the little Noob Sound one, which shows it has an Alps pot inside it, which may or may not be a real one. But there were some reviews that were saying that it was attenuating the low frequencies. And there's no capacitors in these things, so the only thing that I could think of was that possibly people were trying to use them with super long runs of RCA cables, and the capacitance in the cables were interacting with the volume pot, causing frequency response changes. And so nothing else made any sense. But then when I started thinking about it, I do have two sources that I use pretty regularly. I've got a turntable with a phono stage, and then I've also got a CD DAC, which when the DAC isn't hooked up to it, doesn't have a volume control. So it would be nice to be able to switch between the two. So that's where I decided to get an SYS, the switcher stuff one, that has a push button channel switcher, or a source switcher, so you can switch between two sources. So let's take a look at this little guy. It comes in a nice box. It's pretty large for what it is. And when you open it up, I've already unboxed this once before. It was all like wrapped up in bubble wrap and stuff. And inside this larger box, well, there's plenty of protection for it. And that's what it is. And being a passive preamp, there's not a whole lot to it. If you read the instructions, they're kind of funny. They're like, well, there's a knob and there's a button. And that's about all there is to it. And they're right. This switches between the two sources. And then you've got two input sources and then one output after the potentiometer. Now you could use this for a source switcher and just turn the volume all the way up. And there you go. You can switch the sources and attenuate the signal somewhere else. For my use, this will be the volume control for the system, and then I can also switch between the sources. So, like I said, I bought this to work with the two KT120 mono blocks I just built, but then I started thinking about it. It's like, that would be really nice to use with this Pass ACA clone amp that I got, that we did a series on of upgrading the guts of this thing, and I really need to listen to it some more and give it a full chance of, being something that I might like to listen to sometime. So this will allow me to do that. The other thing that seems kind of odd is that they call these a preamp, and I think kind of got stuck with that name. They're not really a preamp because there's no amplification going on, and it's passive because there's no obviously there's no power cord on it, and all it's doing is attenuating the signal that goes in and what comes out. The last question that I had for myself was, why don't you just DIY this? and it wouldn't be hard to make something like this. I've got RCA jacks here. I probably got a little box around here, and I know I got an Alps pot around here, but this thing was $59 on Amazon with free shipping, or you could buy it from their site for, I think it's $49 plus shipping, so it came out to be about the same thing. And you know, an Alps pot's $20, and by the time you use up 6 RCA jacks and a metal box, it's probably $10. You're 3/4 of the way to just buying this thing and not having to build anything. And it looks nice, and it's got this little printing on the front of it to show that the volume and stuff. And I just decided to go buy one. I will say that I like that these are made in the USA, or they're at least assembled in the USA, but I'm not a big fan of the return policy, and that's why I bought it through Amazon. And I don't want to beat up on them too much, but if you look at their site, they got in big print. They've 10-day trial. Send it back to us. We're happy to refund your money if you're not happy. Then tiny print at the bottom, there's like a 20% restocking fee. And I got hit with that with a little box I bought from them. Their little Loki box. It's like an EQ box. And sure, for a lot of people it works fine. For my system, it's high enough resolving where I could hear it in the system. And it always sounded better with it defeated. And it just sounded like there's like a veil over the sound. And yeah, it changed the EQ, but it added this other negative quality to the sound, and I just didn't like it. And so when I went to return it, I was shocked when they said they were going to keep like $60 of my money. And then, of course, when I read the fine print, there it was, and I was just like, man, that's not good. They should have that bolder print. So anyway, I don't want to beat up on them too much. They do have some nice products. A friend of mine's got one of their top-end preamps with the 6S and 7 tubes in it, and he loves it. And so, they've got the cool little relay switching volume controls and stuff. So they've got some really neat products, and again, they're made in this country, so that's a bonus. But I would suggest buying them through Amazon, just so you don't have to deal with their restocking fee. So anyway, that's really kind of it. I don't know how much more you can talk about a volume knob and a push button. But this is a cool little idea. I think that it can be very useful to a lot of people in situations like if you got one of these little pass amps or any kind of amp without a volume control, and you've got a source with no volume control. This can solve the problem without adding the color that a possible preamp noise something could get introduced. This is going to be dead silent. It's going to be transparent, and it's going to do exactly what you're asking it to do, and that's just control the volume. So anyway, if you're enjoying this video or you're enjoying my content or the channel, please subscribe. Thanks to all you Patreon folks. Thanks to you folks that make donations at the website. That helps me keep this thing rolling. And until the next video, have a nice day.